One. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Legendary drummer Michael Shrieve announces the much anticipated release of his album, Drums of Compassion, set to drop on May 24th on Trey Gunn's innovative label, 7D Media. This album is a testament to Shreve's artistic journey, encapsulating over 50 years of musical exploration and collaboration with some of the most revered names in the industry. Drums of Compassion is not merely an album, it's an odyssey that began 2 decades ago, inspired by the Dalai Lama's call for a time of compassion. The album boasts an ensemble of musical virtuosos, and their collective genius creates a tapestry of rhythmic brilliance that transcends conventional music boundaries and offering listeners an immersive sonic experience. Shreve's collaboration with Soundmaster Jeff Granke lays the foundation of the album with ambient, space-evoking melodies that serve as a backdrop to the dynamic, persuasive elements. It's officially released on May 24th of this year. And a very wise man once said, music prompts us to respond with open-heartedness instead of judgment. It ushers us to a higher place from where we can see beyond distractions to what is true and good and lasting. Please welcome legendary American drummer and composer, best known as the original drummer for Santana, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Michael Shrieve, to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Michael.
Hey, Ray. Good to be with you.
You know, man, it's amazing. You're 74 years old and you've done so much already in your career because you started young.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is really amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't have a tendency to look back. And at this point, I mean, this record has taken me 20 years to complete. And
Wow.
I've got a lot of stuff that's coming after it as well that I can't release it all at once, but I'm glad this is done. It was one of those projects that just wouldn't let me go, or wouldn't. It just wasn't time to put it out, I guess. I mean, it was difficult for me. I kept thinking, what the hell's going on? Why am I procrastinating, or am I avoiding it, or why am I not putting this out? And I also, up until the last day, was changing things and adding things, and it's a dilemma for an artist that when they really like something, they sometimes tend to hold on to it.
Right.
I think for myself, it was that I really like this record. It's really important to me. It sort of really speaks for me where I am now, even though I started it 20 years ago. And there's a certain point you just have to let it go and just release it to the world, and get it off your own back as well. And that allows the space for you to move on to other things. So because of that, I'm very happy that it's out. But having taken 20 years to get it out there, it's kind of like a fine wine. And I have no regrets for it taking that long.
I grew up on world music because of my parents. My father, his family was from Syria, so I listened to the great Kulthum, who was an Egyptian singer. My mom was Cuban, so I
Oh,
grew up with Celia Cruz and everybody in the household. And of course, I was in my room listening to Santana and Led Zeppelin, and so it was a very
yeah.
eclectic household. So
Wow.
I really dig where you're coming from here, with the Nigerian percussionist in the first track. I love it. World music is incredible. I mean, we can get so much from not only the artists, but from the instruments that they use.
Yeah, yeah. And the Middle Eastern music is just
Oh, it's great.
really beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a soft spot in my heart for Middle Eastern music and
Mhm.
Spanish music, um, and also anything Moorish, and architecture wise, and the flavors of the Middle East as well.
Mhm.
So I love flamenco music, and so it must have been a really interesting household to grow up in. That's a lot of beautiful music.
Oh, it was. I loved it. I really
And the
did.
Cuban music, forget about it.
Yeah. Salsa.
Yeah.
I talked to Greg Raleigh a long time ago. He's such a
Uh-huh.
cool guy. And I really said, I said, Greg, do you have any Latin roots? Because you guys played so well together and you nailed Latin music, in the band. And it wasn't just Carlos, it was all of you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the combination of you with the I guess the timbales, with
Timbales and congas.
and
Two,
congos, yeah,
yeah.
was excellent.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't played Latin music. I just studied out of a book.
Hmm.
I never really played it much. And so when I approached the Santana stuff, I was aspiring to be a jazz drummer at that time. So it just happens that the swing rhythm of a jazz cymbal
Right.
fit with all of that stuff, and that's the way I approached that Santana music. So it was an interesting blend in the way that we did it. It wasn't. We had traditional elements, but there were other things about it when you got specific that made it our kind of special sauce.
Exactly. Back to the album. How do you pronounce his name? Is it Michael Alatunji? Is that
Olatunji, Olatunji,
Alatunji? Okay.
Ola, Olatunji. Now, this is full circle having him on the record, because on the first Santana album, we covered a song of Olatunji's.
Hmm.
Get this, from an album called Drums of Passion.
Hmm. Wow. Yep.
And so then I heard the Dalai Lama talking about it's a period of that compassion is necessary. And I thought, this is perfect. This is full circle, but now drums of compassion. So it's really something. I didn't even hook all that stuff up knowingly, but it was it was a beautiful coincidence.
His first big hit, Carlos, was he called Jingo Loba, I guess?
Bingo, yeah,
Yeah, Jingo from Drums of Passion.
yeah, and
Very,
that's
very
that's
interesting.
Olatunji's song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My dad had in me as well. We had electronic stores in DC, and at one time our biggest customers were Nigerians because the naira was very good. The dollar was very, very strong with the naira, so they came in and bought all kinds of stuff. So I developed a really cool relationship with the Nigerians. It was
uh-huh,
yeah, very
yeah,
cool people.
yeah,
They really were. But I love
yeah.
that song. That's a great tune. Um, the next song, On the Path of the Healing Waters, was another favorite of mine. Kind of a smooth jazz track, right?
Well, it's yeah, it's smooth,
Hmm.
uh, but it's also ambient, and it's got rain sounds, and I did have more. I had like footsteps walking, and I really wanted to make it like an environmental piece and do
Right.
surround sound. But I cut that out. But it yeah, there's definitely a water feel. And the saxophone player Skerrick he's from Seattle, but he plays with tons of people all around. Um, but yeah, it's uh it's a vibe.
Yeah. I love ambient music too. I mean,
I do
it's
too. Yeah. Yeah.
it reaches deep into your soul. It just makes you feel so good and relaxed, and you know
Yeah.
that's
Well,
why.
you must like the piece with the oud then.
Yes, I did notice that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was incredible. Um, you're gonna have to help me with the euphoric. Go ahead.
The Fort Pandiero of
Ghetto of
Ayrto Moreira. So
Arieto Morier.
Ayrto.
You're right. Now this is a Brazilian guy, right? Brazilian jazz drummer.
As a Brazilian guy, he was
Yeah.
he played with Miles Davis in those all through the 70s, and he played with all kinds of Chick Corea, and his wife is a singer named Flora Purim, who He actually sang on a Santana tune as well. And the pandeiro is a Brazilian tambourine. And it's just like a 1 minute piece, but it's amazing. Ayrton is how you say his name, and he's like a shaman, man.
And Diana, that's his daughter, is also a singer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's in,
Brazilian music is so cool too. I really
yeah.
enjoyed. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, really. I mean, these players that I have, like Zakir Hussein, is the greatest tabla player, but this record is not a burning record. It's the idea of it started. It's almost like a meditation record. The idea came to me after when I moved to Seattle in 1989. I used to go out to clubs all the time, and I'd come home at 2 in the morning, and the family's asleep, and I'd put on some music that would bring me down. I mean, not depress me, but chill me out.
Right.
And so I thought one night, what kind of music could I make as a drummer that I would want to put on at 2 in the morning? And so this is the result of that idea many, many years ago.
Love it. I talked to John McLaughlin a while back. We were talking about, I guess he knows a lot of great tabla players as well. And I can see you in
Zakir plays with him, all the time. He plays with them in Shakti.
Yeah, in Shakti, that's right. I could see you and John McLaughlin together. Have you played with him before?
I have many years ago on a record with Carlos and John McLaughlin.
Right.
But I wasn't able to go when they came to town, so I haven't seen John in a long time, but I sure do respect and admire him, of course.
I bet Carlos loves his album because that's kind of his thing as well, right? With the world music.
Yeah, I mean, I sent it to Carlos, and he had nice things to say, which he doesn't always do.
I've tried to get Carlos on this show many a times, man, and he's even coming here soon. But I've talked to Cindy. Cindy was on the show. She's a lot of fun and a good drummer, very good drummer. Yeah. Like you said about that, he worked with Miles Davis, which is really cool, and Return to Forever and Santana. So Arito, right? Ayrton, just like it's spelled, I guess.
Yeah.
Ayrton, yeah.
Oh man, I mean, you should check into some of his solo albums from the '70s, or go watch some of his stuff on YouTube. He's really, I mean, these are, if they were food, these are the greatest restaurants on the planet.
I could see that. I like the the symbolism there that you did between the food and the music. That's cool.
I never thought of it like that before.
That's pretty good. You could make a song about that, the parallel between music and food, or restaurants, I guess.
Yeah. And there's another guy that I found on Instagram, like a year ago, a German percussionist named Stefan Moss. And it blew me away with his grooves, because he wasn't like Latin or Cuban or Brazilian or Indian. It was like more cinematic. And I immediately put him on a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And stuff that I still have yet to put out. So he's on the record, and I'm really happy that I was able to connect with him.
That's kind of a new genre now, cinematic. I like that. We're calling a lot of things cinematic. I interview a lot of prog bands from all over the world, and I bring them to the U.S. so more people can hear them. And they're great players, from Norway, Sweden, Germany. And cinematic does define a lot of these bands. You could actually picture them in a movie. The Fierce Energy of Love, a percussion jam. I love it. Another great track.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. That my friend Dave Hill wrote that piece. it was fun coming up with the titles of these things, which I didn't have titles until like 2 months ago. And excuse me, I wanted to be in a certain place, it's a certain space that I want to bring the listener into. It's not a long record. It's kind of the length of the records from the 70s.
Right.
It's like 35 minutes long, which seems like really short nowadays, because with the CD you can go 75 minutes, but this isn't an all you can eat thing. And also the listening experience, I think, that's a good potent time, because the music is dense, not dense in well, it's a good length of time. We used to do it in the 70s, and people with vinyl now, you do maximum 20 minutes each side, because that's where the sound is best, where the grooves are deeper and thicker on the vinyl. And so I think there's something to that. The records from the 70s, you put it on and then you turn it over. And then it was short enough that you want to listen to it again,
Yes. It makes you want to hear more, which is great, because now I want to hear your next album.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not getting enough. You got to talk about the next. Go ahead. What were we going to say?
No, I've got more in the pike. I've got one that's finished, but I got to let this thing.
Oh yeah.
Breathe a bit and
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to promote the hell out of it.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate that you like it, man.
I love it.
I mean, I'm very aware of the fact it's not for everybody, but it's what I'm offering.
Well, people that understand music, and are, intelligent about music will love this album. They're not that kind to listen to looking for, pop. They know they know better than that with your background.
So how would you describe this record?
That's interesting. It is interesting.
I'm curious, because I don't know either.
I would call it world music. It's got some world music in there, of course, ambient and some jazz. Yeah, and some jazz elements as well, which is a great combination altogether. So yeah, I love it. You got to talk about Oracle. That's one of my favorite songs on the album. It's cool because it's spacey, psychedelic, and ambient, and that describes that track.
Yeah, it stands out. I mean, there was some discussion of whether I should and put it on the record at all.
Right.
But I'm not familiar. I don't know if you're familiar with Amon Tobin.
Okay.
So Amon Tobin is well, he's they call him an electronic artist, but I became really aware of him in the early 90s. And I don't know how to describe his music, because it is electronic now too, but I always wanted to do something with him. So finally we got together and I recorded a bunch of drums, grooves, this, that, and the other. And then he takes them and he makes something out of that, like the way he reverses them and sonically how he plays with them. And so I thought this was a nice place to go right in the middle of the record. Amon Tobin is to this day, is one of my favorite artists. I mean, he keeps going more and more out there, and he's more like a sound artist. But you should definitely look him up on YouTube and check out his tour he did some years back called ISAM, ISAM. It was the most visually stunning thing I'd ever seen. So Amon Tobin is revered in certain circles.
Right.
But, obviously everybody doesn't know him.
When you say electronic, I'm thinking about, you remember Synergy? Who was that? Larry, was it Fast?
Very Fast.
Larry Fast. I loved Synergy, and I love that kind of music. And of course, Tangerine Dream was very cool.
right?
Was he along those lines as well, or
No,
no?
it's different. What he used to do and doesn't do so much anymore is he used to cut up, sample records and cut them up and rearrange them and do it like that.
Okay.
He didn't really play an instrument. Now he's really into the modular stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just a sonic adventurer. I have a recording that with Larry Fast and I
Really?
um, that we could put out as well. It's a live performance from 1984, 85. And I'm playing the same kind of drums I'm playing in Drums of Compassion.
Hmm.
And it's with some percussion. And so I've got this whole idea. What I'm doing is playing like 16 drums standing up in a semicircle. And I got that from Stomu Yamashita, Japanese percussionist who I
Right.
did go with. And so I just stole that idea of or that approach, and it's really freeing as a drummer as well because you're standing up and you're, you know, kind of running around, and so yeah, man. See, that's the other thing, That's why I like finding these interesting people like
Sure.
Stomu. So I looked for him for a year.
Yeah.
And, that gives you the flavor of life.
Exactly. It's like a history lesson too, It's like, it's like learning religion, different types of religions.
Yeah, yeah,
It's very cool. Yeah, I got
yeah.
to tell you, man, Michael, you are a great drummer. I have to say that.
Thank you.
I have to get this out. Michael's a
Thank
great drummer.
It's
um,
funny now. I mean, I think of myself as like a drummer, and who's going somewhere else. you know,
you kind of are.
yeah, I am,
Yeah.
and I'm doing it on purpose as well. So
Yeah.
because the older you get, for me, it's harder. You get arthritis. It's not
Yeah.
so easy to play. You
Yeah.
know,
I can imagine.
and so you got to find other ways to express yourself and make the music. This I'm playing the drums, but nowadays it's a little different, the way I'm looking at music, and I'm
Mhm.
using much more software and electronics and
Yep.
stuff like that. So, but I don't care. I mean, I don't care. It's as long as I'm making some beautiful music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I give Richie Blackmore a lot of credit too because he did that with his wife. They rediscovered new music. Kind of the medieval type music, and they play these instruments that go way back to you
Oh,
know the medieval days. Now
oh,
which is
yeah.
really cool. So
Oh, good
you
for
know,
him.
yeah, he discovered a lot of different types of music as well. The Breath of Human Kindness. That's another great track. And I don't know where you got the name of that track, because that's a great name.
Man, I just like I really went to this place. I wanted the names to be very evocative.
It
And
that's a good one.
yeah, the breath of, which one is that?
Track
Uh
7.
Track 7, yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Oh yeah, 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 that's beautiful.
Right before Zakir and his tabla.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Zakir Hussain, who we were talking about. Um, who played with John McLaughlin as a matter of fact, when I talked to John McLaughlin, we were talking about that album, Is That So, back in 2020 when he played with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shakti, yeah.
Yep.
They
Shakti.
just did a world tour. It was super successful.
When I met John, I for some reason I thought he was going to be very strict, and he was a really nice guy, very pleasant gentleman, you know, surprised me. You never know about people.
Yeah, you don't. It's true.
Yeah. And again, Zach, you name that track after him, which is cool.
Yeah, I kept trying to think, what am I going to call this? What am I going to call it? And it's like, ladies and gentlemen, it's like
Yeah.
here.
Another great song, another great track. And then you end it with You Got to Tell Me Again.
Okay, this is Hajira.
Hijira. Okay.
It's it's the same as one of Joni Mitchell's albums.
Oh, that's
Hajira,
right. Yeah.
but nobody dares call any of their music that. It means a journey, and so to me that was it, this is like the journey that I'm taking now.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to avoid it, but it just seemed right.
Right.
And, yeah, I mean, when you do something like that takes 20 years, you want to get it right.
Sure. But like you said, you don't want to overdo it,
You don't want
or
to
else
overdo it,
or
but
it'll never come out.
that's true. And also the difficult thing is like when you spend this much time, which is too long, on a record, you want to keep that thread, and that's the most difficult thing, because I kept changing things and adding things, but you don't want it to go all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
You want it to be an experience, like you want it to be, well, you want to take a listener on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. I love every track. I really do. And it's so refreshing today to hear different tracks and that very similar tracks. Sometimes you get that. This track sounds like that track. There's similarities, but
right.
This is so different, and it keeps keeps you, very active with the music. It's a great album. I'm going to give it 5 stars.
Oh wow,
I'll
thank you.
give it 5 stars. I like it a lot. Very, very
I mean, I
different.
know I've been doing a bunch of interviews, and I know there's just a lot of rock stations and stuff, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know what these people are gonna like make of it. You know what I mean? But that's not my concern.
Well, Carlos has done a lot of different things too, like
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah. Oh
He's been
yeah.
way out.
We share music every week.
Yeah. It's funny. First, I had Javier Batis on the show. You know who that is?
Yeah,
Guy who
yeah,
taught Carlos how to play
yeah,
guitar.
yeah.
I thought that was so cool. He was a nice guy too. I got hooked up by Fito from Can Heat. The Can Heat drummer Fito de la
Oh,
Parra, and he's good friends with Javier. And he says, "Hey man, you want to interview Javier?" I said, "Of course." So, that was cool to hear about Carlos back in the
yeah,
day.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
pretty neat.
Carlos, Carlos really did it, man.
Yeah, he did. He really
He's
did.
still doing it. He just announced a tour, and I looked at the tour, looked at it, and it got me exhausted just looking at it.
That's hard to do as you get older.
Yeah, I mean, even though he can travel in his own plane and do that, it's still hard work. It's still
Yeah.
hard work. So I got to hand it to him.
The second concert I ever went to was Santana
Is that
in
right?
1973.
Huh. I wonder if I
It
was in the band then.
was Santana and Tower of Power in
Oh,
Maryland.
yeah. I was in that.
Mhm.
I made that. I made that tour happen. That because David Garibaldi is a good friend of mine.
Right.
I have a podcast you might enjoy, a video podcast on YouTube called Stick People.
Okay.
And it's Lenny White, who
Right.
played with Return to Forever and Miles. It's
Yep.
Greg Rico, Sly and the Family Stone.
Yep.
It's Mike Clark, Herbie Hancock, um, David Garibaldi, and myself,
Oh,
Dave
cool.
from Tower. And
Yeah.
we interviewed musicians
Yeah.
and like great jazz musicians and drummers and stuff. You should check it out. It's called Stick People.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who better to interview musicians but musicians, right?
Yeah. 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 And next, I want to do John McLaughlin. I mean, we've done
Yeah,
some great musicians and drummers, but
that
I
would
would
be
love
cool.
John. Yeah.
Yeah, interviews are fun. You learn a
Yeah,
lot.
I had a podcast like quite a while ago before it became such a thing,
Hmm.
and I still have them. And I really enjoyed doing the interviews.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
here's a guy you need to interview. I interviewed recently, and I love this band, and you were on his album, Todd Cochran.
You did. You did.
I had Todd on the show not long ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, you guys automatic man days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to see Todd was, like a genius prodigy jazz player.
He's great.
Um,
Yeah.
and I took him to see Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Oh, wow.
And we sat there and that's when I started discussing the idea of automatic man, you
Cool.
know, a
Yeah.
thing. Let's make a thing.
That was some good music. It really
That was some
was.
great music. Now
Yeah.
I want to re-release that and add some bonus tracks and some other
Hmm.
stuff. We're talking about it. So
And how about
also,
the album
oh,
covers too?
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
had another band in the 80s called Novo Combo.
Hmm.
It was out of New York.
Right.
And we are releasing a new record as well. So that we're releasing them like singles on the internet right now. And then, yeah, it's interesting. So, and I have a Bandcamp site that I'm putting out all kinds of stuff that I've never released.
Oh,
Uh,
great.
so what I do is I've been listening to a bunch of old DATs that started during the COVID and old cassettes that of stuff that I'd done or gigs that I did,
Hmm.
shows that I did, and I started cleaning them up and editing them, and I make the album covers myself on the online, AI art, and I put them out. So
Huh.
I've got all kinds of music there. It's like
Oh,
michaelshrieve.bandcamp.com.
cool.
Yeah. So and plus I put a bunch of records made available there too, my solo albums and
Hmm.
some stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm publishing your discography. I've already got it out there. So they'll and I got to tell you, Michael, your solo projects are magnificent.
Oh man.
I'll be perfectly honest, man. I never heard Transfer Station Blue, and
No, that's
I was
electronic.
freaking blown away though.
That's
Wow,
electronic. That's with Klaus Schulze. He was one of the major figures in electronic music. Like,
incredible.
yeah, I mean, he practically started Tangerine Dream, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. And I met him doing the thing with Stomy Amashta.
Mm,
And so you do interesting things. What I learned from Stomy Amashta was you do interesting things and then you meet interesting people,
hmm.
and so on my Bandcamp, what I've done is I've made 3 or 4 compilations of my solo albums because nobody's really heard them, but people can get them and they say, man, this is my favorite album all year, this compilation.
It's true.
And I try to do it by mood and, heavy. I spend a lot of time with the sequencing I've got like 8 solo albums, so I've got a lot of ways to go. Um, I love it. I really love it. Now that I'm older, I really love my solo work. I'm
Hmm.
proud of the work that I've been
You
doing,
should be, man. My two favorite albums now are Two Doors, In the Place of Dreams, which is unbelievable. Transfer Station Blue. I mean, Two Doors is another one, man.
2 Doors. I'm a genius guitar player, Sean Lane, who's not with us anymore, just
Yep.
like one of the most phenomenal ever. And my friend Jonas Hellborg
Jonas
from
Hellborg. Yeah.
we. I mean, I was just trying to catch up with those guys, right?
Those are crazy musicians, man. Incredible. I love that album.
Oh, cool. You probably would because it's got some rock energy,
Yep.
It's like the guitar is ridiculous. Beautiful sound and I mean the stuff is like kicking.
More people need to hear that. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
I
the
know.
issue. You got to get it out there.
Yeah, that's why I put it. I make it for sale on my site. I don't
Mhm.
own, you know. It's like fuck it. The record company never pays me any money, so
I know. I don't get paid. I'm a writer. I don't get paid either.
yeah. So here it is. Come sue me.
Exactly. What are they going to
They're not. They're not.
do? I got to mention a band you were in, Go, which was a
That's go.
fusion
That's
band.
where that's
Yeah,
Steve Winwood and Klaus Schultz and Stommel. Yeah.
that's definitely a super band. What happened to that?
Well, it was never meant to keep carrying on.
Really?
I mean, I looked for Stommel Yamashita for a year because I wanted to do like avant-garde percussion, which is what
Right.
he was doing. And then when we finally met, he told me he wants to put together a pop group, but different, So I mean, with Steve Winwood,
Hmm.
and so I was sort of like, I'll do anything with you, And of course, Steve Winwood. I mean, geez. So yeah, Al Di Meola was in that too. Pat Thrall from Automatic Man. He
Incredible.
did the live shows. Um, yeah.
Who was that? Klaus Schulz? Was he
Klaus
was that?
Schultz, Transfer Station Blue.
Yep, yep.
So I know these are new people for you, but it's rich, right? God, I keep coming to this food analogies here, but it's what's coming to
Have you
my
eaten
mind.
yet?
I had a good breakfast. I'm not hungry, but yeah, these people they got so much juice, right?
They do. Yeah, incredible. Um, your resume just goes on and on, man. Jaco Pastorius. That's a guy that kind of asked you to play with him, right? At one time.
Yeah, yeah. We did a recording, but it's never come out.
Oh man, why? Where is it?
It was late at night. I'll tell you, I'll drop some names here. I
Okay,
was in the studio with Mick Jagger
right.
and um Nile Rodgers.
Now
And
Rogers from Chic.
Niles
Yeah.
was mixing Mick's solo album, his first solo album,
Hmm.
which I went to Mick flew me down to Compass Point and I, was there for a week and Jeff Beck was there. And I only ended up on one track, but Mick and I were friends. So I was hanging out. And then all of a sudden the door bursts open and Jaco Pastorius comes in and he's got war paint on. And he's like, Michael. And then Mick's like, and he says, you got to come downstairs. I'm calling all the cats. We're going to have two drummers. And we're going to this. So I went and we recorded. And next time I saw Jaco, he said, man, they won't give me the tapes. And I said, did you pay for them? And he said, no, no. But
What?
I'm not sure whatever happened to that. That'd be cool to have out.
Oh wow, that's legend, man. If you can get those tapes, that's incredible. Well, Jocko was something else. Really was.
Oh yeah.
You
One
know,
of a
there's a video now about the making of Woodstock, showing you how they got to that point. Getting the
yeah,
artists together, and
yeah,
what was sad was they didn't want. I'm losing it now. See, um, Joni Mitchell. They didn't want Joni Mitchell for some reason. When they would pick the artist, which was a big mistake. They made
yeah,
a you know
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, but she could have been on the bill as well.
Yeah,
Um,
she wanted to, and she stayed in New York City,
mhm.
and she wrote the most famous song about Woodstock.
Exactly. But you actually became the face of Woodstock. They keep going to that picture of
Yeah,
you, which
yeah,
was it's such a great picture though. And you guys were
yeah.
just starting out at that time, right?
That we didn't even have a record out, man.
You guys
You
were a
know,
big hit.
that was, yeah, for not having a record out, we were a big hit. I mean, that's
Yeah.
I forget about that occasionally, and I realize, man, to win that crowd over without, having any songs that they were familiar with,
Hmm.
it had to be pure energy, and yeah, it worked. It was a good day.
Well, you guys were full of energy. That I mean, I heard some rumors that maybe uh, LSD had something to do with it. Is
Yeah,
that true?
it was Carlos and I. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
mescaline. It was
Oh,
mescaline.
mescaline. Yeah, I remember that. Oh, yeah.
But Carlos had a difficult time, but I was like surfing a big wave.
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. I talked to a lot of artists that were at Woodstock. I was friends with Melanie, God rest her soul. We just lost
Oh,
Melanie.
uh-huh.
I talked to Paul Katner, Jack Cassidy, Yorma, Henry McCullough. I talked to Greg, of course, Fido. I hung out with Alvin Lee, was a great guy.
Yeah,
Johnny Winter was on the show. Greg Rico was on the show. David Clayton Thomas, and also John Sebastian. So I had a lot of the Woodstock guys on my show.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
John
Uh,
was. I met John in the early '70s.
mhm.
He's the guy that turned me on to tie dye.
Yeah,
Believe it
I could see that.
or not. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a
He,
nice guy. He is a nice guy. There was a lot of debate about who was the best band. You always hear Alvin Lee because he had so much energy on "I'm Going Home," but the song was very repetitive. The whole time. I go home, my baby. I go. You know,
yeah, yeah.
but I thought it was Santana, definitely for sure. And a lot of people said Sly and the Family Stone did a good
Boy,
set as well.
Sly killed it.
Yeah,
I mean, they were incredible. I think it was Sly and us, you
really.
know. Of course, Jimmy, but poor Jimmy, I
I
mean, his
know.
his manager, insisted that he go on last, which was like
Big
5
mistake.
in the morning, and everybody was so wasted. It was like I didn't see it.
Hmm.
I didn't stick around, but so it's still he's got a legendary performance. Um,
When did you guys leave? Did you leave
uh,
after your set, or did you
after
remember?
Sly, we waited
Okay,
around for Sly,
right.
and Sly held things up because he didn't. He insisted getting paid in cash,
Huh.
and it was like, come on, man, this is a hippie love thing, and he was like, I get the cash and I go on, and he got it, and he killed it. It was one of the most powerful performances I've ever witnessed in my life.
Mm. Yeah, Sly's one of my favorites of all time, man. It's a shame he couldn't continue, and
Yeah, yeah.
drudge
Well, it is
drudge
it
that
is what
till
it is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Greg Rico's telling me he might put a band together doing the Sly tunes with Larry Young,
Oh,
not
good.
Larry who am I talking about? The bass player. Boy, one of the things that happens with age.
I know. I'm not that young.
Anyway, so yeah, in Vegas, he just moved to Vegas, so he's hoping to get
Hmm.
a residency and play the
Yeah,
catalog of Sly's music.
good.
Yeah,
They were a great band.
really great band.
I got to ask you, when I talked to Greg some time ago, and he's in my book, I got a book called Rockstar Chronicles, got a lot of interviews in there and everything. It was a very strange conversation we had about how he met Carlos.
Huh.
Did he tell you how he met Carlos?
I just found out we were in Mexico in the same city at the same time, like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And we did a little event where I hosted the movie of Carlos. And I just learned they went to high school, same high school together.
Yeah.
But that's all I know. What do you say?
Can I read you this little excerpt
Sure.
from this interview? Okay. The story about Carlos is a friend of mine, Tom Fraser, who I played in some frat bands with, right and you get paid in alcohol. You saw Carlos play on a Tuesday night with Mike Carabello, who ended up being the original Congo player, and two guys from Carlos's high school playing bass and drums. They played at the Fillmore on Tuesday nights, which Bill Graham allowed locals to come in and play, local bands just for free, just to be there. And he said, "I'm going to go find him, Greg." We lived at 30 miles away south of San Francisco. So we went up, found him working at TikTok hamburger stand on Columbus Street. So he said, "I've got a keyboard player that you can play with." And so he goes, "Okay." So he came down to Mountain View to a little farmhouse where we were playing, which ended up being Shoreline and Shoreline Amphitheater. We were playing and making a lot of noise, and it was marijuana, and the cops came. So I turned and
Right.
said, "We got to get the hell out of here." And as I turned to Carlos and I saw what was his elbows and the back of his feet, he was 20 yards down the road already out on this field. And so I thought, what a great idea. So we ran and hid in the tomato patch. And that was the beginning of the whole thing. that's
Wow,
that's
that was
how
great. That was Greg Raleigh.
Greg Raleigh. Yep.
Yeah.
How did you meet Carlos?
I was a fan of Carlos,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to see him. I grew up in the Bay Area, and about 30 miles south of 20 miles south of San Francisco, and
Mm-hmm.
in Redwood City. And my brother and I went to see the band at a church dance, and I told my brother, "Man, I'm going to play with that band. I really want to play with that band." And then one day I went to uh, I called all my musician friends, and I said, "Let's go see if we can sit in at the Fillmore. Michael Bloomfield is playing," and it was Super Session with Al Cooper and Stephen
Mm-hmm.
Still. And everybody said, "Yeah, right." And so I borrowed my father's car and I went up there, and I just went straight up to Bloomfield before I lost my nerve, and I pulled on his pants, you know, and I said, "I'm a drummer. Do you think I could sit in?" And I'm just waiting for him to kick me in the face, um, or turn around and ignore me. But he said, "Man, the drummer's a really nice guy. Let me ask him." And I'm like, "Oh shit." And I ended up sitting in. And so after that, I was backstage at the Fillmore, which is a big deal. And David Brown, the bass player from Santana, and Stan Markham, the manager, were there, and they said, "We're from a band called Santana," and I was already a fan,
Mm-hmm.
"and we're thinking about getting a new drummer." So I gave him my number, but I didn't really hear from him. And then later that year, I walked into a recording studio that I all frequented a lot to try to get free studio time. And as I was walking in, the drummer in Santana was walking out. We literally passed each other in the doorway. And a couple of the guys recognized me or remembered me. And then they asked if I wanted to jam. They just got rid of their drummer, right? And they were making their first album for Columbia. And so we played. And literally at the end of the night, um, they asked me if I wanted to join the band. So I said, "Let me check my schedule." And and they followed me home to my parents' house. I woke my
Really?
parents and I said, "Okay, this is where I'm going now." And I got in the car with those guys, and I went up to their place in
Mm-hmm.
the Mission District, and where they were all living together, and took my place on the couch. And what I said I told this story at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for my speech. And so I said, I soon found out this was no hippie love thing. This was like a street gang, and the weapon was music.
Yeah.
And that's how I met Carlos that night in the studio.
Wow.
Yeah.
The rest is history. Yeah. What was it like getting back for Santana 4 after all those years and cutting an album? That was a great album too, by the way.
Man,
I
it
told
was.
Cindy that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, it was great. I mean, man, it's like the right chemistry. It was really
Mm-hmm.
great. Well, my only disappointment is that they didn't tour it. I really
Right.
wanted to do a whole world tour with that.
Yep.
Um, that was really disappointing. We played 3 or 4 gigs, with Santana's band, and then we were supposed to play these big gigs with Journey, and he just had his other band, and there was no explanation or anything. So I didn't talk to Carlos for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I mean he texted saying, I'm thinking of taking the original band out in 2025. And it's like, I think that ship has sailed, dude. I mean, I can't play that music anymore, that intensity. You know what I mean? I I mean, I got to be honest. Um, I suppose I could train for a year or something like that, and you know, but I think that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, you're having too much fun right now doing what you're doing.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you, I really do enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm
Sure.
enjoying my. If you go to the Bandcamp page, you can see some of my AI art that I'm doing for on the album covers, and
Very cool.
I'm really enjoying that. I mean, I could use the money from a tour like that. That's
Right.
for sure. But um, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't live in the past so much. I'm really excited about the future.
Get together with Sean and Sean and
Jonas.
yeah, um Javier, he'll replace Carlos, and then Greg.
Well, I did put it out on I went to see what's his name? The drummer from Pink Floyd.
Yeah,
Um
Nick Mason.
I went to see Nick Mason with his
Yeah.
my son moved from rap onto classic rock, and so he really wanted to go. So we went
Cool.
down there, and I had never met Nick either,
Mm-hmm.
and and I was really I thought that's a brilliant idea. Do the first 3 albums that didn't have the hits,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get your really hardcore Floyd fans.
Yep.
He's doing a brilliant job with it. Really a great guy. And I thought, what could I do? And I thought I could do Caravanserai.
That's right.
I could do Caravanserai and Welcome and that period.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it out on Facebook asking people would they come, and then a bunch of guitar players came forward, and I found this guy named JB Eckel, and he's got a couple of songs on Carlos's record, Shaman, even sing one of them and co-wrote. But man, because I'm thinking who'll play guitar, and man, this guy has it down. But then I thought that's going to be a year just to get it together. Then you got to find somebody to put money up for touring, and this whole time I'm living in the past. I don't know. So and I put myself up up there thinking about it, and I thought, do I really want to spend my time like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I ended up saying possibly not.
Well, you're right. Time is limited when you get older, and there's
Yeah.
so many projects that you can do. I've got a lot going on. I got a new book.
Oh,
I'm
great.
working on. It's about halfway through. It's fiction. It's kind
Oh,
of like
really?
it's a new version of 1984, the George Orwell.
Really?
Yep. It's pretty cool actually. It's a lot of action. I've got a TV sitcom that I wrote. I've been trying to pitch based on my
Uh-huh.
first book,
Uh-huh.
but time is limited. I mean, I'm 65, so
Uh-huh.
I'm getting there. I'm in the
Yeah.
Medicare age now. I've got Medicare,
Yeah.
Social
Yeah.
Security. Uh, but you're right. You're right about that. But keeping active is very important. You look great, by the way. You don't look your age at all,
Oh,
in my
thanks.
opinion. You don't have any wrinkles.
Oh, well, I have good lighting. And this computer I use, it's got really a great camera, uh, I swear to God, it's a MacBook Pro, but I don't even use my big iMac here. This one is like it smooths out all the wrinkles.
That's funny.
Boy, I mean, I bet I shaved for half an hour today because I looked like you before
Yeah, I
um,
gave up on shaving.
yeah, I did too, but I don't know. I tried to trim it and that
Yeah,
wasn't well. And so I was just like, okay, fuck it,
yeah.
shave it off. But I was thinking of pitching an idea too,
Hmm.
because I've been reading an interesting book by it's called Curiosity, and there's the extended version of what's the guy's name who here we go. He's a he works with Ron Howard on all his productions.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he tells about um his story, and it's all because he's curious.
Right.
And I really relate to that because I find that to be not the case with a lot of my contemporaries. I'm curious about new music. I'm
Sure.
curious about books and film. I'm curious about AI. And and then I thought, and he's really ballsy, and he wanted to meet people, and so I thought, I'm going to do what he did. I'm
Hmm.
going to him, and I'm going to pitch him my story.
Good idea.
Like the road to Woodstock and stuff like that. You know, I mean, it's a good story.
It is a good story. Well,
You
you got
know,
a shot because you're a big name. It's harder for me.
well, I don't know. I have no idea. It's
Yeah,
so relative. What's a big name?
yeah,
So I mean, I don't sell a lot of records or anything like that.
right.
Got a lot of fans, but it doesn't mean they support you.
You know who
Every
has a hard time though, which is surprising? I interviewed Julian Lennon. You would think, his albums would sell big time. You know,
yeah,
he's a great musician. He's done so
yeah.
much on his own without
I
John's help,
I agree. I
you
had
know?
a really a good evening with him once in L.A. and
Hmm.
he was a real gentleman, and I
Yep.
loved his music.
I love his music, but
Yeah,
I don't understand why he's not getting the PR like he should.
yeah. I mean, it's harder sometimes when you're the son or
I guess.
something. Yeah,
How old is your son? You say your son is a musician as well,
I have. Excuse me. I have two sons.
right?
One of them went to Berkeley School of Music and graduated. He's
Oh,
about
wow.
35 now
Okay.
in LA, writing and producing pop music, and he's really good.
Hmm.
Every time he comes and plays me stuff, it's like, man. And I hear his tunes, like, there'll be a basketball game or
Yeah.
commercial, and I'm like, I know that. He has to break through with a singer yet, but anyway, he's doing that. And I have another son, Slater, who's in real estate out here in
Hmm.
Seattle.
Should be very proud.
Yeah, I'm proud
Yeah.
of both. I dedicate this record to them.
Do you have grandkids?
No, I don't have grandkids.
I've got five.
Oh my God. Well, that must be great, huh?
It is. It's a big deal when you get grandkids, man. It's your whole life, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
They were just here
yeah.
today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really great.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It really is. Um, Michael, here's a question I ask everybody. I get some really interesting answers. Okay. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, which is my one of my favorite movies, Field of Dreams, to perform, collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
Hmm.
And you played with so many people, so it's probably hard.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what it would be now for me. It
Hmm.
would be put shows together with um with people who are doing really interesting generative AI art and make a like a have an installation somewhere
Hmm.
and collaborate with those people. Those are the people to me that I'm I'm looking at. I mean, I keep up with the musicians, but those are the people I want to collaborate with. I keep going to a site called seditionart.com.
Okay.
and it's all these visual artists from all over the world.
Right.
This is what gets me excited. I put my music to it, you know, and I check it out, and then I just like I did with Stomi Amashta and all these other people, and then I try to contact the people and see if we can collaborate. And I've got 3 pieces up there now with a artist from Mexico City called Fausto Cantu. And those are the kind of things. So I'd like to do something that's like has some weight to it in a place that have my music with visual representation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Boy, you're really into this AI stuff, huh?
Yeah, and it's not all this stuff is not all AI, but
Right.
it's definitely computer based and it's cutting edge.
Yep.
And it moves me like music moves me. So I figure I don't doubt myself anymore about the stuff that moves me. If it moves me, it moves me, you know. And then I go for it. I go towards meeting those people to collaborate. So that's fun to me.
I'll probably use AI for the cover of my new book. I think, you know.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I heard you can't copyright AI. Is that true?
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. But
Yeah.
I should show you some of my work, see if it works.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I've got a lot of stuff. Well, you can look at some of the album covers there, but I could do something specific to the story.
Right.
If you write me a summary of the story,
Okay.
I can try some stuff and see if it feels good to you.
I'd like to have your name in front on my cover. That'd be awesome.
I'd love it too, man. I really would.
Okay.
I've already been asked by someone to use
Good.
one of my pieces.
It's another side business, huh?
Actually, I think the art could be. I really do.
Yeah.
I'm looking how to do that.
You got a deal. I will contact you about that.
Yeah, give me a summary
Okay.
And I'll give you 10 options.
Okay.
Something
That'd
like
be
that.
great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. How do we go around the copyright aspect of it? I mean, eventually it'll be.
Don't copyright it then.
Don't copyright it. Yeah. Doesn't matter.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I'm doing all the singles from Novo Combo as they're coming out. So yours is a 1984 type of story?
Yeah, it's kind of a civil war in America.
Is it dystopian?
Yeah. Military against our military against our military. And I got the bad guys are called the Commonwealth. They took over the government, basically. But I do have a hero in the story. He's actually a journalist.
So, great. Yeah. Have
Yeah.
you seen that movie, Civil War?
Haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I've not seen it yet. Mine's a little different.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of scary, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I visited Mexico a couple of weeks ago. I'm thinking of moving down there.
Really?
Yeah.
What part? Mexico City?
No, San Miguel de Allende.
Okay.
Gringo Town.
Gringo Town.
But there's great music down there, and the place where I'm looking at to get some and build a house, I just fell in love with, like the physical land and what they're doing there. And so I got to get my wife down there next, and because I'd like to go there. I really like to go there.
There's no problems with cartels in that area?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I've been to Acapulco. I've been to Mexico City. I know Acapulco's got to overrun, by the cartel in a way. That's the only thing that scares me now about Mexico.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Yeah.
And their authoritarian leaning president, but there's a new election coming up.
Okay, good.
But there's tons of corporations from all over the world moving there, which means they have faith in it. And I'd like to grow older there.
It's a beautiful country.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Michael, do you have anything else we should cover, or do we?
No, email me
I will.
yeah. You have my email?
I don't. I got,
It's
going through.
my name at gmail.com.
Okay, that's easy
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
I
And
want
I'll
to
get
say
to
very special thanks today to the great Billy James, of course, of Glass Onion PR, who's another
uh-huh.
drummer. Another drummer. I've known Billy now for I don't know 12 years or so. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Pre-order the new release by Michael Shrieve, Drums of Passion. Where's the best place to get the album now? Should they go
Well,
on your website or
it's a pre-order, and so the
right?
place to do would be 7dmedia.com,
Okay.
.com,
Yep.
and that's where you order it.
And that's interesting as well.
Trey
Because you got
Gunn,
Trey Gunn, King Crimson guy.
yeah, and
That's pretty cool.
he's on my record as well. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm a big fan of King Crimson, man, from way back.
yeah. I saw the last one they did with the four drummers or something like that. It was, yeah.
Very cool. You're on your official website's www.michaelshrieve.com. You're on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram.
I'm on Instagram, and
Mhm.
I'd say the most active one. I have to get my website more active, but is my Bandcamp page.
Bandcamp. Okay.
Yeah,
What's the
michaelshrieve.bandcamp.com.
Okay. I'll make sure I publish that as well. And of course, you can also go to 7D Media to see what's going on there as
Yeah,
well.
great.
Michael, thank you, man, for being
Thank
on the
you, Ray.
show. It's a real pleasure. I mean, you're a
Yeah,
legend. I've loved your music for years, and I've discovered new
appreciate that.
music now,
I
which
appreciate it. I
yeah,
had a good
very
time.
very happy with that. You're happy doing what you're doing now because it's some great stuff. I really
Thank
really
you.
mean that.
Appreciate it, Ray.
All right,
Okay.
man.
See you
Take care.
later.
My best to you and the family.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.